Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balava Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Balava Girivaradhari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balava Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Balava Girivaradhari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privakachara Tarasi Simad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privakachara Tarasi Simad Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Thakur Bhakti Vinod Ki Jai. Srila Gaur Ki Jor Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Sri Guru Parampara Ki. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sri Ram Nomi Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Go Premananda Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right, all together, please. Om Jnana Timarandasya Ganandana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Bena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Didati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yukta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapcha Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhana Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevaja Paridanam Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, text numbers 8 and 9. So, that's 2 verses, of course. Yeah. So, please repeat after me. Naiva kichit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavit pashyans. Huh? क्या हो गया? Huh? I can go ahead. No problem. I'll start again from the beginning. Please repeat. Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavit Pashyan shrimbam sparsham jagrinran Asyan gaschan swapnam swasan Pralapam vishrijam grinan Umisanyasisam api Indriyateshu Vatanta iti dharayan. Okay, go ahead.
Naiva kinchit karomiti yukta manyate tattvavi pasyan spasyan digran asnan gachan swapan swasan Pralapan visrijan gana Unmisan nimisan napi Indriyani indriyarteshu वर्तन्त इति धारयन्
नैव किञ्चित् करोमीति
नैव किञ्चित् करोमीति
युक्तो मन्येते तत्त्वम्
Yuktamanyeta tattvavid.
पश्यन् श्रीमन् स्पृशन् जिघ्रन्
Pasman Sriman Pasyanti Sriman
अस्मन् गच्छन् स्वसन् स्वसन्
Asman Ganchati Astatan
प्रलपन् विसृजन् धिनन्
Pralayan Brisidam Jalam
उन्मिषन् निमिषन्नपि
Unistam Mitinam Api
इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेषु
Indriyani Andriyateshu
वर्तन्त इति धारयन्
Vatante iti dharayan. Messages? Anyone? Okay, we'll do the word for word now. Please repeat. Yes. No. Never. Eva. Certainly. Kinchit. Anything. Karomi. I do. Iti. Thus. Yuktaha. Engaged in the divine consciousness. Manyeta. Thinks. Tatbavit. One who knows the truth. But Pashyan. Seeing. Shringvan. Hearing. Sparsan. Touching. Jagran. Smelling. Asnan. Eating. Gachan. Going. Swapan. Dreaming. Swasan. Breathing. Pralapan. Talking. Vishrijan. Giving up. Grinan. Accepting. Unmisan. Opening. Nimesan. Closing. Api. In spite of. Indriyani. The senses. Indriyateshu. In sense gratification. Vartante. Let them so be engaged. Iti. Thus. Dharayan. Considering. So, translation Srila Prabhupada. A person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them. Please repeat. A person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening, or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them. There's a remarkable verse, isn't it? So, yes. Let's read the purport, see what Prabhupada says. A person in Krishna consciousness is pure in his existence and consequently has nothing to do with any work which depends upon 5 immediate or remote causes: the doer, the work, the situation, the endeavor, and the fortune. This is because he is engaged in loving transcendental service of Krishna. Although he appears to be acting with his body and senses, he is always conscious of his actual position, which is spiritual engagement. In material consciousness, the senses are engaged in sense gratification, but in Krishna consciousness, the senses are engaged in the satisfaction of Krishna's senses. Therefore, the Krishna conscious person is always free, even though he appears to be engaged in affairs of the senses. Activities such as seeing and hearing are actions of the senses meant for receiving knowledge, whereas moving, speaking, evacuating, etc. are actions of the senses meant for work. A Krishna conscious person is never affected by the actions of the senses. He cannot perform any act except in the service of the Lord, because he knows that he is the eternal servitor of the Lord. Yes. So, Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Laite Grimyat Kripatamam Vande Sri Guru Dintarinam. A person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping and breathing, always knows that within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them. Yes. So he does nothing at all, right? He knows with himself that he actually does nothing at all. So what do you mean, do nothing at all? When I go and cook dinner, I'm doing nothing at all. When I'm drinking water, I'm doing nothing at all. When I'm having chapati, roti, I'm doing nothing at all. How is it possible? I'm chewing with my teeth. I'm digesting with my stomach. What do you mean, Krishna, I'm doing nothing at all? Well, he is aloof. He knows that the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them. So, first let us understand. When we're in a motor car or on a motor bicycle, we know that we are aloof from the motorbike, correct? I'm aloof from the motorbike and the motorbike is going down the road. But by my desire, I'm navigating the streets. So I'm aloof from the motor car. Krishna says later in the Gita, Ishwara Sarvabhutanam Hridese Arjuna Tistati Ramayan Randi Bhutani Yanta Rudrani Maya, that I'm seated in everyone's heart, conducting the material body within which the living entity is the proprietor in a temporary sense. So, this is, I remember reading this and I did a lot of study on this point, and what it actually means is that when we look at a human being, there's four things. There's the gross body, there's the mental body, which contains the consciousness, then there is the individual soul, and then there is the super soul. So, those four parts, when we look at any living entity, are the living entity. But now we know that Krishna, super soul, he is aloof from the material energy, correct? And however, he has empowered demigods to govern the material energy. Just like the Prime Minister of a country, he may engage or empower different people. You're the Defense Secretary, you're the Economic Secretary, you're the Home Minister, so on and so forth. But he is not directly, but he has empowered them. So the devatas in the material world are often described by Srila Prabhupada and in the Shastra as the extended limbs of the Lord. What does that mean? It means that Krishna empowers them to act as governors of the material energy. Just like Lord Brahma, Krishna is the creator, Anadir Adir Govinda, he's the source of all entities. But Lord Brahma is the creator on his behalf, and he is empowered by the Shakti of Krishna to arrange the material energy. So Lord Brahma is interacting, creating the layout of the universe and so on. And then Krishna is empowering Lord Brahma. So Krishna in form of Paramatma is not directly touching the material energy, because he is purely spiritual. But by his potency, by his arrangement, by his will, he empowers different living entities to act in relationship with the material and govern the material energy. This is the important point to understand when it says that we do nothing. Because we are soul and super soul, we desire to lift the hand. So that desire, this is actually how it works, the material energy. That desire is perceived by super soul, and then the Devata, who is in charge of the arm, the potency, he works the body. We are doing one thing, we are desiring, and then super soul and his extended limbs, the Devatas, are moving the material energy. Yantra Rudrani Mayaya. We are within this material universe, within this material body, but we are still Param Tattva. We are particles of Krishna. We are aloof from the material energy. But by our consciousness, we are entangled in the subtle potencies of Maya, and we are desiring to lord it over the material energy, which is foreign to us, which is a different category of energy. It is the Ajit, we are the Jiva Shakti. That foreign entity, we interact with it through the grace of Krishna as Paramatma, Vishnu, and his empowered agents. And therefore, the living entity, he has his desires fulfilled. If he wants to go to work, walking, the Devatas are actually moving his legs. He is desiring, but the interaction is with the Paramatma and then the Devatas. So the Devatas, like we have the 8 Vasus, and we know from the Vedic literature there are 33 million Devatas. And each one of those administrative demigods is empowered in a particular way to work the material energy, to govern it, to move it, on behalf of the desiring Jiva Shakti. So that is the meaning. This person described here, the Paramatma, the person who is realized in transcendence, he knows by purified consciousness that he is not, that he is aloof from the material energy. And the way we can understand that is that sometimes this material body, for example, when we die, the material energies, the Devatas, they exert on the living entity the process of death. And we can't stop it, right? We may take medicines and this and that, try to function. But when death is coming, the body is put on the road to dissolution, despite what the living entity desires. The living entity is desiring to live, to enjoy, but now, because of the material arrangement, the body is coming to an end. So he is desiring, but his desire is not the ultimate principle. He desires to avoid death, but death is coming and taking his body, removing him from the body. So this is the situation of the living entity. At all times, particularly in the material energy, he is under the Devata's control. Just like we said at the beginning of class, Chitragupta, there is a record of everybody's activities in the Akash. And we know, you can look it up, of course, everyone knows, that sometimes people have near-death experiences and they relive certain parts of their life and they see their life from the other person's point of view. They see, oh, I mistreated this person, and then they feel the suffering that that person. So in this way, the material energy is insuperable. It cannot be suppressed. It cannot be surpassed by the materially conditioned soul. But it can be suppressed. How? By surrendering to the Supreme Lord, because He is the controller of the material energy. What is that verse? Devi Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya Durachaya. This material energy is very difficult to overcome. But those that have surrendered to me can easily cross beyond it. So Krishna, He gives mukti. Krishna gives bhakti. He gives karma, the fruits of karma. He moves the material energy. He gives inspiration to the musician to write this music. He helps the worker work hard. He helps the farmer grow the land. But it is His intervention, His supervision that is controlling the whole material energy. So 3 classes ago, we were talking about the Chatur Shloki of the Bhagavatam, the 4 summary verses. So if you remember, one of them was that this is Krishna telling Lord Brahma. He says, knowledge about me and my creation is both 2 things. It is scientific and it is mystical, meaning it is beyond logic and argument and calculation. And so what does that mean? Yes, we can take apart an atom or a molecule. We can learn the laws of physics. We can calculate the effect of gravity on objects. We can calculate time. Everything is working in a scientific, logically progressive way. But matak parataram nanyad kintid asti janandaya. All those laws, those scientific laws of argument and physical laws and biological laws and interaction of molecules and temperature, that is resting upon the Supreme Lord's potency. And that is the mystical aspect. The material scientists, particularly in Kali Yuga, they are taking apart atoms and molecules, measuring this, measuring that, and interpreting it in this way or that way. And they think that if we learn the laws of physics, then we've understood everything. And those laws of physics, they project, they're the same here, they're the same on Saturn, they're the same on Venus, those material laws, they're the same on the sun, and they are the ultimate principle of the material universe. But because Maya Aprita Gyan, their knowledge is stolen by illusion. And what is that illusion? They don't see it as resting upon the Supreme Lord. Whereas the devotee here, he knows my material body is working by the supervision of the super soul and the intervention and the demigods. In modern psychology they say, oh, it is the subconscious mind. It makes us feel, now I must go to the toilet. Subconscious mind, now I must take rest. Now I must get up. Now I need to drink water. So all these impetuses are coming from the material body into the conscious of the individual soul by the supervision of the super soul and the empowered devatas. They are working the material body. And we, just like Vishnu, because we are Angsa of Vishnu, Mama Angsa Jivalo, we cannot actually touch the material energy. How do we interact with the material energy, the Maya? It is through consciousness. Our consciousness is our sunlight. Like the sun, it emanates sunlight. So the sun is the source of sunlight. So the soul is the source of consciousness, and as he is Vibhinangsa, independent, he can project his consciousness in this way or that way. Now, if he projects his consciousness towards the material energy in a mood of enjoyment, then his consciousness becomes what's called in Sanskrit chittam, contaminated consciousness. The material subtle body is composed of manas, that's like a container, and then it's contained of chittam, consciousness from the soul, then buddhi and ahankara. And the ahankara affects the buddhi. The ahankara tells the intelligence, you are the body and you are the controller, you are the doer. But what does Krishna say? Kartaham iti manyate. I am the doer of everything. If you think that you are doing anything, no. You are doing it by the grace of Super Soul and Paramatma. And we are controlling on a conscious level in the sense of desiring. We are interacting with the material body in the sense of desire. I desire to pick this up. So Super Soul facilitates that through the demigods. But I'm the soul, I'm consciousness. And the soul is above the material energy. It's aloof. But the consciousness has entered into the material energy and become contaminated, because there is the Pancha Mahabhuta, earth, water, fire, air, ether, and the working senses. But there are subtle effects of Maya too. And those subtle effects are Prasadmika Buddhi and Avaranatmika Buddhi. Prasadmika Buddhi means intelligence, Buddhi, Prasad. It's the throwing potency of Maya. The living entity is thrown into the material illusion, and he thinks, I'm a dog, I'm a cat, I'm a human, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm the doer. But the second subtle potency of Maya comes then, and that is called Avaranatmika Buddhi. Avaranatmika Buddhi means that the misconception of Prasadmika Buddhi is taken to be the truth. So therefore people have the opinion that I'm the body, but at the same time they're convinced I am the body. Do you understand? So they have illusion, oh, I believe in Karl Marx, and I think it's right. And then his brother thinks, well, I believe in the BJP, and I think I'm right, and therefore you're wrong. So in this world, everyone is covered by the illusion of the material body, ahankara, the sense of proprietorship of things related to the body, and at the same time they think they're correct. Therefore everyone's a philosopher. If you go in the street and you say, how would you fix the world? Well, I would do this. And then you talk, everyone is thinking, I've got the right idea. So this illusion is in the consciousness of the living entity by the supervision of the Devatas, Supreme Lord. But the soul is never polluted. For example, Stalin, he killed 100 million Russians. He killed millions and millions, and it was a horrible, most repugnant. But the soul remains pure. All that pollution and pap is within the consciousness. So, here Krishna is talking about the self-realized soul. He knows that I am the soul. Now you'll get this in the next chapter, where Krishna says, the person who sits down and he controls his senses and he withdraws within, then he withdraws from the gross body and he's within the mind, but then from within the mind he realizes, I am consciousness, but then within consciousness he finds himself, the soul that is the source of the consciousness. So that is the self-realized soul. And the bhakta knows Divara Swarupoi Nichera, Krishnera Nichadas. So he is situated in the soul. Now if you remember in the 3rd chapter, Krishna said to Arjuna, become Atma Rati, be attached to the soul, be situated in the soul, Atmaram. That he means not in the consciousness that is flowing out into and entangled in the material energy. Be situated in yourself, Arjuna. Be situated in the soul, not your polluted consciousness. So, Arjuna, and then earlier before 2nd chapter, Krishna told Arjuna, there's transcendental world, you should be situated in that. And Arjuna asked Krishna, he said, what are the symptoms of somebody who's transcendentally situated? And Krishna said, when the person, the soul, is situated in himself and gives up all varieties of sense desire that arise from mental concoction, from within the subtle body, and his self finds pleasure in the supreme self alone, he is in pure transcendental consciousness. So, he is withdrawn from the gross body, he's withdrawn from the pollution within the 3 modes and the covering and throwing potencies within the consciousness, and he is withdrawn so that he is within the soul. He is within his ultimate self. And then the next step, once he's situated in the self, then he understands that that individual self is situated within Krishna. He is an angsa of Krishna. And that is samadhi, that the person now realizes, I'm not the material paraphernalia, I'm not the gross body, I'm not the fluctuations in the mind. That is called vipassana, when you look at the mind as a witness, you withdraw. But I am not even consciousness in the sense that I am Atma, I am the source of consciousness. And then that soul, that is resting upon the Supreme Lord, and I am part of the Supreme. Mama angsa jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana prakriti stani kashite. And when he is attached, atmarati, to the spiritual realization that I am transcendental soul, then he looks at the material world from that pure consciousness and thinks, yeah, the material body, just like Krishna says many times in this, if you can be situated within the material body and not be agitated by desire and anger, but be situated within the self, within the soul, within realize your own spiritual root identity as a spirit soul, through meditation, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasam, once you realize that I'm soul, not consciousness, polluted consciousness, not this material body, not this subtle body, but I am soul, from that position he is enlightened. And therefore there is that sloka, Yashadeve Parabhakti, Yashadeve Tatagaro, Tashyete Prakashante Mahatmana. To the great soul who has realized Krishna directly, and has great implicit faith in the spiritual master, then from that illusion, from that purified consciousness, then everything is revealed. Prakashante Mahatmana, to that great soul. So we are entangled in the material body by consciousness, and we are interpreting ourselves as the ultimate principle. When I want to raise my hand, I think that's me. I'm the ultimate principle. If I move my hand this way, that way, if I look at if I touch this, I'm the ultimate principle. But no, it is depending on the arrangement of the Supreme Lord. And that is the mystical aspect of the creation. Like I said before earlier, the creation of Krishna, material and spirit, is both scientific, meaning that there are the laws of physics, the laws of biology, so many physical laws that are there, that are reliable and that can be calculated today and calculated in the same way, tomorrow. So that is what Krishna, when Prabhupada says scientific, it means that it is logical. There is a logical aspect. But that is resting upon something that is beyond logic. Krishna is the source of energy. He's the source of time, factor, material or spiritual. He's the source of all the arrangements. But he is aloof from them. He is above that. He is creator of logical. We all have a sense of logic, not naturally. Oh, what he says, that's nonsense, that's not logical. Now that's a good idea, because we assess it with logic. So logic is there, but Krishna is not bound by logic. Therefore it says, the Upanishad, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnat Udashite Purnasya Paramadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. That the Supreme Lord is the complete whole. And because he is completely perfect, even though so many entities, Jiva Shakti, Chit Shakti, Achit Shakti, emanate from the Supreme Lord, they are all perfectly equipped as complete wholes for their function. But even though so many complete working entities and potencies and shaktis and rasa and emanate from the Supreme Lord, he is not depleted. He remains the complete balance. Just like, say, for example, there's 50 people here. If I give everyone 10 rupees, then my pocket is depleted. But Krishna can create unlimited universes in the Pradhan. He can empower Lord Brahma. He empowers Lord Shiva. The spiritual world is unlimited. Just consider, we think in the material sense, we think when we're children, we look at the sky and we think, I wonder where the universe comes to an end. Right? We've all had that thought. We look, because we think, the universe is huge, but it comes to an end. And there's nothing there. But we're informed, no, the universe, the creation, the spiritual world, does not come to an end. And it's easy to understand if you apply a little logic, actually, because the universe is something, and we think that after the universe, there's nothing, right? But we have turned, in that way of thinking, the nothing into something. It's something and then nothing. But actually, nothing means the absence of everything. Nothing isn't an empty space or a dark space or a place where everything is absent. It doesn't exist at all. Therefore, Ananta, the creation is unlimited. Now, from our position, materially conditioned, we cannot understand that there is only creation. There is no counterpoint of no creation. There is only creation. And that creation is the emanation of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, Stu Bhagavan Swayam, and it has emanated from Krishna, and he is not depleted by that emanation, by maintaining the universe. He's not depleted in one way. So that is beyond logic. When we're down here in the material world, we get our ruler out, our microscope, and we weigh this, and we balance this, and we do this, and we calculate this, and we take carbon dating, and we're doing all this. And we're thinking we're in a nice world where everything is logic and calculable and rational. But actually, the universe and the creation is beyond logic. It is beyond our limited perception with our instruments. For example, there's a clock. So the clock is saying 6 minutes to 7. So is the clock time? Time and the clock are different, are they not? Huh? Yes, you can measure the time using a clock, but is that measurement time? No, that is our perception of time. You understand my point? The clock is moving very logically, like I say, scientifically, but what is time? Right, this is the big thing in the modern scientists. It's the movement of atoms and molecules. Well, we don't know, so we put that to side. What is space and time? What is time? What is this feeling of progression that I have in my consciousness? So does the clock tell you that? No, it doesn't. So ultimately, time is a mystical effect. Do you see? It's beyond the clock. It's beyond whether the clock is made by this company or that company, or we have no clock at all. Time progresses in the material world. It is a potency, the Kala Shakti, right? Krishna explains in the Gita, Kalosmi Aham. Time I am, destroyer of worlds. When Arjuna sees the universal Father, Virat Rupa. So we are in this universe, and we have a limited perception which is based on logic and argument. But the yogi who has learnt to, through sadhana, and in sadhana in Kali Yuga means to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this point we should understand very nicely. That, yes, now materialistic people, they will calculate time and energy and finances and the stock market, yes. But the yogi, he has somehow or other picked up the idea is I want to realize that entity, that supreme source, that entity that is beyond this material creation with which I am engaged. I have heard from Guru, I have heard from Shastra, I have heard from Acharyas that there is a supreme person of unlimited potency. His potencies are variegated and are unlimited in depth. He is the source of rasa that we are enjoying in terms of emotional feelings within our consciousness. I have heard about this from the sages. I have read about it in Bhagavad Gita. So now I will deal with my material life, because we have a material body, so we have to deal with this body. but I will regularly meditate and see everything as in relationship to that supreme mystical entity that we call Param Tattva, the absolute truth, that which is the source of logic, but who is beyond logic, who is the source of the material creation, but he is beyond the material creation in terms of his dham, his situation. He is the source of the spiritual creation, but he is the source, he is beyond the spiritual creation, and everything is resting upon him. All the laws of the material universe, all the interactions, all the karmic effects in the material, they are resting upon his potency. And so my inquiry is into that. Now, what is the means of inquiry? Atakshri Krishna Namadi Nabhavad Graham Indriya. Rupa Goswami says that the absolute truth is beyond the material body, the material senses. Sevan mukhi hi jivado swayam eva spuryada. That transcendental source, that supreme entity that the great sages have defined as Sri Krishna and his consort Sri Radha, who expands as Ram and Sita, as Narayan and Lakshmi, that supreme entity, that is my source of meditation. But how, if I have this material body and mind and senses, how will I attain that? Well, that is your illusion. You are within this material body and mind, but you are aloof because you are Satchit Ananda Vigraha. You are Jiva Shakti. Mama Angsa Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta, Sanatana. You are a spirit soul. And your means of perception of that supreme entity is consciousness. Plus his grace. Swayam eva spuryada. Spuryada means that the Supreme Lord, he is the source, he is the creator. And we're performing bhakti, chanting Harinam, and we're trying to behave nicely and live a pure life and be truthful, not political, be kind-hearted, sadachar. And we're doing this constantly, we're studying the Shastra. But ultimately, spuryada, it becomes revealed within the consciousness. The truth, the realization of Krishna becomes revealed within the consciousness, not within the material body. So the yogi knows that. He withdraws from material distraction. He knows I'm aloof. I'm the spirit soul. So now let me focus upon the absolute truth. And in Kali Yuga, Shravanam is very important. Sadhu Shastra Guru Vakya Sitete Koryakya. And if you combine hearing the Shastra with chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare, then that supreme entity will reveal himself. Why? Because of his generous, unlimited spirit. This is the point. The Supreme Lord is unlimited, but his mercy is unlimited. So, Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya. Now he has come in his most generous incarnation. Krishna Prema Pradayate. So, thank you very much for your kind attention. So, remember that. When you chant, Bhuta Shuddhi, withdraw from material mind and and try to find the Supreme Lord within your heart. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram,